Is Tabletop Weekly, and we're the partners of Solarian Games. I'm Jason.
I'm Peter.
And this week we are joined by Joe Bloch. Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We'll be talking with Joe today about his latest book, the Greyhawk Campaign Guide, and he's a creator of all kinds of. He's the 1E guy as far as I'm concerned. So we'll be talking a lot about that. So here's this week's stories. Return of the Living Dead RPG is announced. The Level Up Gateway alpha testing is live for Kickstarter backers. Joyride, Survival of the Fastest. I almost misread that. And freebies and pay for you want for the holidays.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off with the Return of the Living Dead?
I do. I saw this piece of news, and I got to tell you, when I was a teenager, I loved this series so much. I was a zombie head. I loved horror stuff. And this one had all the punk rock in it. So it was a punk rock zombie movie. And I was, that was my scene. So I don't know. I just loved it. I used to quote, like we talked about this earlier, people who like to quote movies. Dude, I quoted this movie so much. But anyway, yeah. So apparently,
I'll allow it.
Evil Genius Games announced at PAX Unplugged they are bringing back a classic TTRPG system as Return of the Living Dead. The company will create a new adventure based on the zombie franchise. This is awesome.
So, all right. I am not familiar with the first version of this game. Joe, have you seen this before?
No, I was going to ask the same question. What if this is a reskin of an old game? What game is it?
I don't know. It didn't say. Okay, so I have to apologize.
Okay, so they're bringing back a classic system as Return of the Living Dead. So
I believe so.
Return of the Living Dead before.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it is.
But then it also says it'll feature new rules and mechanics tailored to the franchise's dark humor, punk rock aesthetic. And do we have a picture of the cover to show folks here?
We do. Sorry.
All right,
sorry.
bring that up.
There
And
it
for
is.
the for the people on the audio show.
Now this isn't the official cover. They don't have an official cover yet.
Okay.
So this is just
pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've got this is real classic kind of it's not even the sort of like horror Iron Maiden death metal stuff. This is way more funny. This is way more kind of underground comics looking to me.
That's what I was thinking. It looks like like they should have like big dragsters.
Yeah.
And pompadours. Guys in a black leather jacket with a pompadour.
Again, I just
Ed Roth.
I just grabbed this image because they didn't have one for the game because it's again they've just announced it. I think they're just getting ready to start working on it. But this is all of the folks from it. And the movie, I mean, this is so telling of the movie. You said you're not. Are you familiar with the movie at all?
Who are you asking?
Either one of you.
I probably saw it when it first came out and have completely forgotten everything about it.
And you know me, Peter, I do not watch horror movies.
Right. It was very tongue-in-cheek. So what you're seeing here, it was almost a comedy horror.
It looks funny.
Yeah.
This one I would watch.
Like there's this one scene when they're in a graveyard and the graveyard's got all this crap in it. And the guy, this punk rock guy, I think his name was X. He's walking around and he's like, this place is a mess. And he's like kicking, dirt around in the graveyard. And it gets crazy. There's one punk rock chick, she takes her shirt off and is dancing around. And it's just nuts. It's a goofy movie.
Mm-hmm. It looks
and one of the zombies in it, they killed a bunch of the ambulance drivers and cops and stuff who had arrived, and the one zombie gets on there and goes, "Send more cops."
Well, it says here that this collaboration comes as they are gearing up to reintroduce the Return of the Living Dead franchise to a new generation, and in 2025 they will be launching an original feature film to mark the 40th anniversary of the cult classic. So I have to
have an RPG.
Yeah, of course.
What I do know is that they're talking about having a fully immersive VR experience.
What
is that for the game or is that for the movie?
I think that's for the movie. I think that's going to be probably a third thing, maybe.
Wow. So I get the impression that the original was a B movie, pretty low budget. Is that right?
Oh yeah,
more like a Z movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So this would be kind of, I'm assuming, kind of keeping in that spirit. They're probably not going for a Spielberg here.
No, I would think not.
Okay. Well, it should be fun. It should be.
One of the things I did want to mention, I put this in the notes, was that Evil Genius Games. I mean, they mention here that they have Escape from New York, Rambo, Highlander, Total Recall, Universal Soldier. They must have a bunch of people our age making games because
Yeah,
these
really.
are all games from
That's
our
quite
time.
the list.
Yeah, right? Anyway, that's enough. I just thought that was cool.
Well, it's great. And this is just in time for Halloween, so it's perfect.
Yes, just in time.
All right, let's move on to the next thing. Level Up Gateway Alpha Test is live for Kickstarter backers. What, you ask, as do I, is Level Up. Level Up is a deeper, more flexible enhancement of the 5e rule set. So I don't know what that means. It sounds like somebody...
Or so they claim.
They just sort of hacked it, maybe? Said, here, why don't we take 5e and maybe streamline it, cut down the rules a little bit. I don't know how you could cut them down any more than they are, but okay.
Well, that's the thing. Does this mean that they're trimming them, or does this mean that they're piling more stuff into it? Because
that's a good question.
It could go either way. Yeah. And if you wanted to do that, you could just make a supplement and sell it on DM's Guild or drive-through.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's one 5e based game called 5 Torches Deep. Mm-hmm. Which really just trims everything down to the bone and makes it very old school, and it's gritty, and you die, and you have to. There's resource management and stuff. Something like that needs its own game using the 5e engine because it is so radically different, even though it uses the same skeleton. Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell from this what the changes are that warrant it being a new system as opposed to just being a supplement book.
Yeah, I can't tell, like you say, just from looking at this, I see the same sort of skills and actions and that sort of thing. Yeah. And it does say that they've made a gateway that's an official character builder for Level Up, and that there's alpha testing available to the backers of the original Kickstarter. So that seems really cool. I'm always interested in how people are doing when they put together things like character builders. I mean, for us, we have put... for Top Secret, we basically have an Excel sheet that people can use, and it's got a lot of macros in it, and that's about as sophisticated as we ever got.
Yeah, that's still pretty decent, though, because I'll tell you, an automated character sheet is awesome when they work right.
Well, I will tell you, so I play more 1st edition than 5th edition, and people who know me or have been following podcasty crap know that I kind of got my start here in the game industry by doing the 1st edition AD&D podcast, which was called Roll for Initiative back in like 2011 or so. So I care a lot about this stuff. And with 1st edition, I do use a character generator and all kinds of things. I've got all of the software for that. It's just that it only runs on my Apple IIe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you have it on the 5 1/4 inch?
Yeah.
Let me know when you get it for the TRS-80, and I'll be interested.
Okay, I think I can get a copy of it. Yeah, if you have a working.
No, seriously. Tape.
I do. I use it on my Apple II. I've got a dot matrix printer, so when people come over, I'll print out their characters for them. And awesome. The crazy thing is, there were so many computer-based tools for 1st edition and pretty much anything you can do with D&D Beyond today, you can do with a TRS-80 or an Apple II.
Well, in Dragon, they used to actually have basic programs, and you'd have the magazine, and you would type it in on your computer, and hope you didn't make a typo, and then just try to run it.
Right, and then of course the next month, the next issue would come out, and they'd say, "We're sorry, we made a mistake in the program that you typed in." Type it all in again.
If only we had ChatGPT back then.
Oh, thank goodness we didn't. But yeah, no, I'm totally down with these tools. I mean, we know that at the time, Gary Gygax talked about things that he was excited with, seeing how computers could enhance the gaming experience. So I have a feeling that he would approve.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
All right. Let's move on. You got the next one.
I do. Yeah, here, let me do that. All right, so this is Joyride, Survival of the Fastest. Now, this is not a role-playing game. It's more like a Car Wars style.
I looked at it, and it was like, oh, yeah, this hits my Car Wars spot. This is, or Gaslands.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was just thinking Gaslands, but here they've actually put together a more comprehensive kind of game-in-a-box thing. So you've got the actual... Those are really cool looking dashboards. Yes. They've got all the little cards and everything and an arena that's on a board. So people who are board gamers are going to feel a lot more comfortable with this than they would with Gaslands or Car Wars.
Right. But at the same time, it seems like there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like you can pick your car. I think, you know, any of us who are role players who also like, you know, Car Wars, I think this is like to me, this really feels like a modern version of that. And I definitely want to get a copy of this to play it.
Yeah, I've never heard of this, but I'll probably grab a copy because I was more of an ogre player. I still am more of an ogre player.
I noticed the ogre in your back shot there.
Yeah, the designer's edition. In fact, I run it at cons.
No way.
Yeah, I still run ogre miniatures at
conventions. Are you going to be running one at Page too?
Not ogre.
Okay.
But I will be running ogre at Historicon.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm also going to be at TotalCon in February, and they actually have Car Wars on the big arena with the miniatures and everything.
I've played with that guy that brings the big arena. He's such a good GM.
Yeah, he is. That's fun. It's
just it looks like somebody. He looks like Eddie Deason. That's who he looks like.
Oh my God, Eddie!
He does.
He does. You know what? It's funny.
I sent Eddie Deason a photo of that guy. I'm like, look, it's you.
You know, it's funny that he not funny. It's interesting. So it's interesting. I've talked to the guy, and that is actually sort of like an homage to his brother. Apparently, his brother used to do that, and he keeps it alive for his brother, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is a great tribute to him because everybody has so much fun with it, and he always tells about his brother, which is wonderful. We get to know him a little bit that way.
Yeah, but
this great.
This looks really fun. I mean, I was looking through it. I watched a short video of them playing it. It doesn't seem as like crunchy as Car Wars. I don't think you have to like use a protractor and a slide rule.
Well, I'm out then.
Yeah, but it has some cool stuff. Like they have a gear shift, and the gear shift, which, oh man, I can't point to it anyway. So the gear shift is down on the bottom left. You'll see like a little stand up thing.
Yeah, I see it. There's a little meeple on a line that goes down, and that represents. It looks like the different gears.
Right.
Oh, that's very clever.
Yeah. So if you're in the highest gear, it means you go first because you're going the fastest. But it also means your rolls are harder.
Right. But just like Car Wars.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's very cool.
It looks great. I mean, I like to play Car Wars with Hot Wheels and, build my own stuff. But I think that's not really appropriate for everybody. That's a lot of extra crap.
When they came out with the new Car Wars Kickstarter a couple years ago, I begged them to change it to Hot Wheels and Matchbox scale.
Yep.
And then they could just sell little Greebles that you could put onto a Matchbox car.
Yeah.
But no, they
hey, what's fun? Have any of you all seen the Car Wars card game? That is actually a lot of fun. I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same, but it's fun.
I mean, I've adjusted all the rules for Hot Wheels scale, but another scale that works really well, HO scale, like no, this isn't right, is it? Well, anyways, whatever the scale is that games like Dropship Commander use is also the same scale that the there was another type of toy cars that was big in the 90s. They were smaller than Hot Wheels, and you can still pick those up. They were Mighty Mini, or I don't know what they were called.
Oh yeah. I remember those. Yeah.
So
Mighty Minis or something like that.
Yeah, you can use that without any changes. And there's a lot of things like Dropship Commander where you can get some great terrain that goes with them. But all of that is hacks. All of that is those of us who care enough about it to do it. This, I think, would be a lot more successful to just pull out at a convention and say, come on, guys, in between games, let's get Joyride going.
Yeah.
A game that'll take an hour. Yeah.
So I saw this and I immediately was like, yeah, this is something I want to talk about today. So anyway, looks cool.
All right, let's talk about some of the freebies that are available because we are coming up to, what is it, Christmas? Is that the thing?
Yes, there's this Christmas
and freebies and pay what you want for the holidays. So there's a few things here. Both Kobold Press and Paizo have advent calendars. I think you're late if you want to get your advent calendar going, but what the heck, you can start one now, where they'll be giving away a free PDF every day until Christmas.
And you can still get the old ones, they said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you didn't miss out.
Well, in years past, we've been doing a virtual advent calendar for Top Secret online, and I just didn't get it together to put it up this year, but they're fun to do. They're fun to do. Do you guys get the dice advent calendars from places like Black Oak?
I did not.
Oh, they're great. Black Oak invented the idea of a dice advent calendar, and everybody else has kind of jumped on the bandwagon since. But I say, if you're going to buy one, buy it from Black Oak. They're the originals. They make great dice. Guy who runs it's a really solid dude. So
Okay.
I confess I am not a dice head. I have my one set of pewter dice, and that's pretty much what I use.
wow.
I do when I go to conventions, I've got a gumball machine with dice in it.
Yeah.
But that's about as far as I go.
Wow.
We do that at our table. We've been putting dice in the vending machine, but I discovered that because I put a whole set of 7 dice into each capsule. Turns out that's way too heavy, and it's been breaking the machine.
Oh.
Yeah, I got the capsules. It's one die because when I got it, I just put like dice in it.
Yeah,
and it kept jamming, and you get like 5 dice once and 1 die. But I found the capsules that are perfect for 1 die.
That's what I should have done.
And what I do is there's a couple of wooden D6s I put in it, and if you get the wooden D6, you get a free adventure. So it's
nice.
Like
that's a good idea.
And the kids love it. The kids love. There's like never-ending stream of children pumping quarters into the machine, and of course I just happen to have like $100 worth of quarters with me.
Yeah. It's weird though. I mean, my wife started doing it at her craft shows, and I've discovered that when you bring a vending machine to the shows, people do love it. It's fun. Yeah. So it's a good idea. I want to get one of those.
It's that gambling.
Exactly. Get a claw machine with like books in it.
We and Brian Shutter from Zombie. Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. We were talking about if it would be possible to get one of those library vending machines. Like, have you seen these things?
Yes.
You sometimes see them in restaurants. No. Like, there's some along the turnpike where if you go into the rest stop or the place where there's a McDonald's and everything, they have a great big vending machine, and you can check out books from a library on it. And so we were like, maybe we could get an actual book vending machine, and then we can go play games, and we don't have to man our booths.
I think it's called a website.
It turns out you can get them for a reasonable price, but there's just literally no way to get it in the back of a truck it's not.
Oh my God. Yeah. The thing probably weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. I looked into it. It's a bad idea.
Jesus.
Oh, I'm off topic so much. All right.
Anyway. All right.
Hold on, wait a minute. I could say if you run a convention, you could sell space in the vending machine to people.
Now that you could do.
If you're a convention, you get the machine, and it stays in the storage bin like all your other crap, and then you sell spots in it to different vendors who might not be able to come. Right?
Okay, so we've got so many friends that run conventions. So Ron, Scott, Jen, Brian, whoever's listening right now, Luke, whoever's listening, get one of these at your thing. Put a little sign that says this was Joe's idea.
Yeah, there you go. It's a great idea.
Ron, do it. I know Ron. I'm going to be there. So yeah, do this, Ron. It'll be great.
Yes. All right. Knight Errant Media has a new pay what you want quick start for their Year Zero powered Titan game, Titan Effect RPG Zero. Dark All Day, this sounds kind of cool, is a retro 80s take on cyberpunk. Is there another way to do cyberpunk? This pay what you want game uses 8-sided dice, and they have a high-tech megacity you can explore. So Dark All Day, look for that. 3 more here. Guildmaster Guides brings The Creeping Blight, which is a 5e pay what you want adventure. The Curse of Krampus from Chimeric Creations with a Z is a one-shot adventure where you have to go save Santa after he was turned into Krampus.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's good.
Doesn't say what system it's for, but I would adapt it to whatever system I wanted. And then finally, in Gnome for the Holidays from Z-Rave Apocalypse, the party is invited by Glimmer Tinkerton to visit his new toy shop and to celebrate the holidays in the village of Kaldahar. Just keep names I can pronounce, guys.
Right.
New magic items, new maps, a snowball fight, and an ice golem sculpting contest await you here. That does sound very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
It does.
Let's get to the main event.
Yeah.
All right. So we've been teasing up to this for a while. We've been talking about Greyhawk here and there in little ways. We did have the guy from the UK who technically had the first Greyhawk item.
He beat me by like that much.
By that much. But you know what? It was sort of a small, quick, thing. So this is you're the Apple to his Samsung, I guess. You know? This is the first big thing for Greyhawk on here, and you are the Greyhawk Grognard. Let's talk a little bit about what you've done up till this point, because when I tell anybody who's excited about 1E and they wish there were more things back in the day, I'm like, you can almost get it as if there were. Go look at Joe Bloch's books. You've put out a ton of books that honestly look like they could have been put out by TSR in their heyday. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I got a couple of things. I got the Castle of Mad Archmage is my homage to Castle Greyhawk. It is a 13 plus level mega dungeon. It's got all the bells and whistles and everything. There's a new version just came out this year. And it's one of those things where you could literally just play it forever. Or you could just use it as a tent pole. If two of your players can't make it that evening, you just say, okay, we're going to knock about on level 5 of the Mad Archmage tonight, and just do it that way. So it's like always there as an option, but doesn't necessarily have to be the focus of the campaign. I've also got Adventures Dark and Deep, which is my take on Gary's second edition. So it starts with the first edition rules, and then it adds in, because in Dragon Magazine in the 80s, Gary Gygax had written these articles about, this is the new direction of the game. This is all the new stuff you're going to see, new classes, the mystic, the savant, all that, the jester, all that kind of stuff. So I took all those and I wrote them and combined them into the first edition rules, because this is the game I wanted to play in 1986 and never got a chance to.
Nice.
And that is literally, I wanted to play this game. And then it kind of took on a life of its own. And there's supplements. There's a Cthulhu supplement. There's a China fantasy supplement. There's all kinds of different things for it. But the new core rule books are just about to come out. I'm just waiting for the proof copies to come back.
I don't know if you have a copy there to hold up or anything, but I'll just sort of describe in the meantime. The design on these books really shows an attention to detail. I mean, you know how fussy I am about good quality design, and take a look at this.
So it's Jesus.
It's a phone book.
You could kill somebody with that thing.
Yeah, this is the Bestiary. It's got every monster from the Monster Manual 2, Fiend Folio, plus more than 100 new ones. And I did want to try to evoke the old 80s feel, with the it's got the orange spine, it's got the classic look to it.
The gradient's perfect on the back. You got the right typeface in there, you got the right margins.
I really tried to, I was indulging in my atavistic self here. It's got the classic layout, it's black and white interior, it's got the art. And one of the things I think it's important to remember with this kind of stuff, looking back at the old books like the Monster Manual, Fiend Folio, and that, they didn't all have one artist.
Right.
They had a variety of different artists with radically different styles in the same book on the same page.
Yes.
And I wanted to recreate that because from my experience, that's part of it, is that it, one of the things about the newer games, like 5e, all the art looks like it came out of the same artist.
Yeah. Even if it didn't, they were all told to do it the same way.
Exactly. They're all using a specific style, but I kind of like the idea that if you want to do something that's evocative of the older games of the 70s and the 80s, you want to still recapture that feel of, okay, this is just a bunch of guys in Lake Geneva and they've got like 5 artist friends and they're all working together in a thing, and they're just going to use, they're going to tell Tramp to do one thing, they're going to tell Sutherland to do another thing, and on and on. And I wanted to recreate that. So I deliberately chose artists that were good artists, but had very different styles. So I could have that juxtaposition just as another way of evoking the older, the older feel.
Yeah. And what I love about that feel, and the reason that I'm still so drawn to first edition stuff, I should say at the outset, I really do not care about nostalgia. I'm not a nostalgic person. I don't like old things because they're old. I like good things because they're good. So if something is good and it's from 40 years ago or it's from 4 months ago, I'm going to like it more than something crappy. It's just the way it is. And what I love about a lot of the stuff from first edition was that it reminds me of the difference between going into an old bookstore that's been there for decades, where the owner probably has 2 PhDs, in literature, and is wasting them on running some science fiction shop, and he can't be bothered to organize the shelves in the back, and it's like a treasure hunt. And there's 3 cats living in the bookshop, and you're fighting off a couple of spiders as you get there. And when you find a great book, it's like a treasure hunt. It's this great moment, and it's just all those things about it. And that's the opposite of going in to a really clean Barnes and Noble in a mall, and that's, the modern, the 5e stuff. It's very corporate. It's very clean. It's very perfect. It's gone through
very homogenous.
It's homogenous.
Yes.
It's gone through committees, and it's lost that sense of wonder. And I think choosing different artists adds to that sense of wonder.
Yep. And again, like we say on the show very frequently, we're not knocking the new D&D at all. Not knocking it. It just is what it is. It's not saying it's a bad game. It's just saying that I think, it's just the charm of the old. There's something about that, that non-conformity, that sort of like reckless abandon of like, I'm gonna throw this art here and that art there. But I mean, I don't mean to say that it was completely reckless. Of course it's good, it's all good stuff, but there wasn't like it wasn't like you're driving a train on rails, it's more like you're riding through the park on your bike. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
and it's
cool.
also, the difference comes out in the writing, because with first edition stuff, especially, the first books that Gary wrote, more or less, not by himself, obviously, but that he was the main driver behind, you get the sense that you're reading the writings of a mad archmage. You do get
he
that.
has a distinctive voice, high Gygaxian, and I try to emulate it,
And that's the thing. That's the other thing about your
it.
writing, is that you're not trying to be overly approachable. You're trying to be enjoyable, which is what I get out of it. I find it to be fun to read.
Oh, I've got editors who like, they're constantly trying to stop me from using my $10 words, and I'm like, no, that stays. Let them look it up. I had to look up milieu when I Dungeon Master's Guide. They can look this up.
I'm pretty sure Gary invented the word dweomer. I never did figure out where that came from, but as a kid, I learned so much vocabulary from reading Gary's stuff.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And because before I was a role player, I was a war gamer. I played the old SPI and Avalon Hill war games.
Nice.
And I learned so much history and geography from playing these World War II games, and Napoleonics and everything. I came into middle school knowing more about ancient Rome than anybody else in the class, and I knew where, they mentioned a city. I knew where it was because I remember seeing it on a map from a game. So
it would not be a bad idea for
prepare you for that kind of thing.
School kids to play some, old board war games to learn their history.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in school, we did that at our, summer camp, the Gifted and Talented Summer Camp. But we had one of these things where it was a big simulation of a world game, and we all had to take on roles it was like a cross between a model UN and a war game. And we came out of that knowing so much more. I mean, games are a great way to teach kids, and I think they should be playing a few Avalon Hill games.
Yeah.
Get the, I don't know. What do I have sitting over here? Oh, I have one called, hold on. What's the book case that's sitting right next to me here? This is
you get your history, you get your English.
Teach them with this.
Oh yeah. Or I love that game.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's a great way to learn about World War II if you need to do that. Let's get back to your books, though.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So continuing on, I've also got something called Greyheim Adventures, which is a series of adventure modules. They're not set in Greyhawk because they can't be, because they're first edition and I'm charging for them. But they are, they are very suitable to be used in Greyhawk, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So,
why are all these serial numbers filed off? I can't.
Some of the names are going to sound a little bit familiar, but not quite. And then I've got on DM's Guild, as you mentioned, I've got my Greyhawk, actual Greyhawk branded stuff, because when you're publishing on DM's Guild, you can use Greyhawk now. They, as of October, they let you do that, but you have to use it using the most current rules. So, very specifically, I can't publish a 1E thing on there. They will take it down.
So in the current rules around what you can and cannot do on DM's Guild. My question is, so Greyhawk has gone through different eras. I mean, as in the years within Greyhawk itself. I think it started like what 562 or 36, something like that.
576 was the original baseline year. Then it went to 585. Then it went to 591.
So what era do you get to publish in? In
theory, you can publish it. DM's Guild doesn't care what you publish in. When they presented their Greyhawk material in the new DM's guide, they kind of reset everything back to 576. Okay. So that's what I've chosen to do. Yeah. Oh no. To my mind, that's the best era, because Greyhawk in 576 is everything is just on the cusp, right? You don't know which way the pendulum's going to swing. Good and evil are kind of balanced, and there's great strategic tension between them, and it can jump either way depending on what the PCs do or how the DM wants history to go.
A quick question for you in the year in the novels or whatever in the Gord the Rogue novels. What year was it when he was just starting out as a youngster?
That is an excellent question, and I have wrestled with that for years because they have some things that suggest it's this year because this kingdom is there, and then later on it wasn't. But remember, Gary was also not paying; he didn't care what TSR did with Greyhawk after he left.
Right.
So trying to work out what year his stuff is versus theirs is really hard because he was ignoring their canon. So I don't have an answer to that. I wish I did. It's not 576,
right?
Because certain things have happened. It's at least it's a couple years later. But honestly, I've struggled for years trying to answer that question.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know I'd asked such a deep question.
Oh, it is. I've got like I've got a blog post that's been waiting around for like 6 years on that very subject, and I just keep coming back to it.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say that Gary was, the greatest fiction writer that ever lived, but his books are fun, and if anybody who hasn't read at least the very first Gord the Rogue book, if you like Thieves' World and that sort of thing, it's smack in the middle of that tradition, and it's incredibly fun. I think it's really fun.
And Troll Lord Games just got permission to redo all of the Gary Gygax stuff that they had originally been licensed to sell.
Wait, does that include
they're slowly coming out with this, and they're going to be redoing the Gord the Rogue books.
That's going to be great because I had to look so long and hard to find my copies.
The thing about the Gord the Rogue books, especially the first two, is that it really gives a great insight into how Gary, not necessarily how Gary ran his Greyhawk campaign, but how he wanted Greyhawk campaigns in general to be perceived.
How would you characterize that?
Yeah, because there's not a lot of monsters.
Right.
It's a lot of character versus character stuff. Like, he in a couple of places he runs into bandits, and there's a fight, but he's also Gord is talking to them and trying to convince them of things, and there's a lot of what role playing going on here, which is really at odds with what you normally think of in terms of a Gary Gygax thing, which is a lot of combat and crunchy and stuff. The way he seemed to want to present it is that there's a lot of interaction with the NPCs, and as he put it in the appendix in to the first book, Saga of Old City, monsters are sprinkled in by the pinch and not liberally. So
yeah. Have you done your own fiction writing in this world?
I have done a couple of pieces of fan fiction. Yes. The most the best one is honestly something I call the Green Wine of Saline, which you can find in a couple of places. It's on my blog. It's on a couple of fan fiction websites, and it's basically it's the Sting in Greyhawk.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds really fun. It's funny how you can take one genre and put it over another, and it really works. I'm always mentioning how Isaac Asimov would tell people that he was not actually a science fiction writer in his mind. He was a detective writer.
Right.
And if you read especially if you read the Robot series, they read like Dashiell Hammett.
And were you the one that said this, or did I hear this from somebody else putting a hat on a hat?
No, I didn't say a hat on a hat, but I've heard that before.
Okay, yeah, I've heard someone talking about that. You put a hat on a hat. So like the first hat is sci-fi or is a detective, and then you put a sci-fi hat on top of that.
I think that was that author. We were on a panel at Rising Phoenix Con.
It might have been
a couple of authors, and there was the one guy who'd been the most published. I think he's the one that was talking about it. I don't remember his name, but
I still like that. I do like that phrase though. It's kind of cool.
It's a good phrase. So for people who are looking at this Greyhawk guide, talk about how they could use it, what they're going to find in it. Just give us a little rundown.
Well, I wrote it for people who are coming into Greyhawk for the first time by seeing it in the DM's guide.
Okay.
And this is supposed to be kind of it's beefing up the information that you find in the DM's guide, but it's also taking it back into a little more old school feel. So because in the DM's guide, they make some changes to the setting. They change races for leaders and they change genders for leaders and stuff. And I brought all them back to their original, what they were like in the gold box and the original material. Because I think one of the things about Greyhawk is it is a very human centric setting.
Yes.
And when you bring in all these other races, the dwarves and elves and halflings and gnomes, even so, are relatively rare in the Flanaess, in the world of Greyhawk. There's a couple of elvish kingdoms. There's a very few dwarvish realms that are, worthy of being noticed in a continent. There's no halfling or gnome.
The fundamental shift between first edition and fifth edition is that players now, maybe it's through years of power gaming and wanting to get the right build or whatever. They always want to pick all these different races and things. Whereas first edition was a very human centric game.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And which fits with the way Gary envisioned the game in general.
Yeah.
So I bring it back to that center, but I also include ways to, I include guidance for how, if you have a tiefling in the world of Greyhawk, people are going to think that you're a Cambion. And they're going to act appropriately. And
they're going to think you're a what?
A Cambion, a half demon. Like
okay. I didn't know what Cambions were.
Yeah, Cambion is a half demon.
Where's that from?
Monster Manual 2.
Oh, I missed it. Okay.
A lot of people did.
Wow.
And if you have like a Dragon Man or Dragonborn.
Dragonborn, yeah.
There's really no place for them in the Flanaess. So I say they're very rare. They come from this other island because we do know that there's an island called Dragon Island way to the west. So yeah, they can come from there. And they're also going to be very prevalent in the Sundered Empire, which was on the far end of the continent in Oerk. The Sundered Empire was the setting for the 2001 Chainmail miniatures game.
Really?
And I'm actually working on a book about that. And so, you'd see a lot of Dragonborn there because they have half dragons, and that's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But I give the guidance, because I don't want to just say, no, they don't have them, they don't exist. I want to say, if you do choose to use them, just realize this is how they're going to interact with the setting. This is how
in
the
this
setting
world. Yeah. This is a different world, so this is what's going to happen when you bring them
right. There's going to be consequences for playing a character that looks like a demon. In a world where there's a lot of demons.
Yeah.
Or if you're like, say for example, you're playing a halfling, right? You're not going to find a whole lot of like clothing, gear, equipment, and stuff that is going to be suited to you.
Well, yeah, there's even in first edition, when you find magic armor, there are tables that you roll to see what size armor is this.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to just magically fit you.
Right, exactly.
And, when I've run first edition games for people who either don't play it very often or haven't played it for a long time, I try to run as much by the book as possible, rules as written. And that includes, for example, the racial preference tables. So I've had players go into a bar as a half orc and think they're just going to hang out with the elves and dwarves and with all these, and they're very surprised when suddenly the adventure's taken a very different turn.
Well, it's going to, in Greyhawk, it would depend on where you were. If you were in a bar in the city of Greyhawk or in the Wild Coast,
right?
Yeah, sure, a half orc. But if you're in a bar in Furiondi, or Valuna, then you're going to get stared at. The whole place is going to be like a Western. The whole bar just stops talking.
Yeah, now you've got a new adventure hook.
Go to the bar,
and now you got an adventure hook.
But that's the best part. Exactly. Conflict is where plot comes from.
Yeah.
And when you have more opportunities for conflict, you have more opportunities for plot, which is adventure.
And
when I was in, I don't know, 7th grade or something, in a writing class, and the teacher said every story has a conflict, and of course, being contrary, I'm like, I bet it doesn't. And so I'm like, I will write a story that doesn't have a conflict, and I wrote one that didn't, and it mostly reads like maybe a 5th edition adventure. I don't mean to be mean.
And I took the tray of muffins out of the oven.
Yeah, that was basically what my story was, and the flowers were very pretty.
Right.
Turns out she was right. You do have, that is what drives a story forward.
Right. Conflict is interesting, right? I mean, like, sure, there are lots of stories that happen where there's no conflict. Nobody tells them. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? So when you're playing a role-playing game, you're telling a story, right? And it should be a story worth telling. If nothing happens, you're not playing a story worth telling.
A story without conflict is like asking your 6th grader, well, how was school today?
Yeah.
Fine.
And the story
today.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, just so the story thing. Yeah. Please go on.
So in the campaign guide, I go through all the geography and history, and I talk about technology, because there's a real theme in Greyhawk of, like, you get the impression that there are high-tech nations that used to exist thousands and thousands of years in the past, and there's just a couple of artifacts left from that, like the machine of Lum the Mad and the mighty servant of Luco and things. And I got weather and a calendar and how humans and non-humans interact and stuff like that. And I go through all the different nations. I'm trying to do it in such a way, though, that I'm not just regurgitating what was in the gold box, because if you just buy the gold box, you can buy it on DM's Guild. You don't need my thing. I've added a lot of stuff that I've done over the years. Nothing substantive, not substantive, but nothing earth-shattering and nothing that contradicts what was already written, but it adds a little flavor. Like for every one of the nations, I put in like a little blurb about customs or laws or something that makes it unique, that makes it stand out. Like in such a place, it's considered very rude to have a glass eye. You should wear an eye patch, stuff like that.
That's great.
Just to add a little texture to it. And then I talk about the cosmology, and I bring in gray space, because even though I'm not a fan of Spelljammer as a setting, I'm very much a fan of it as an adjunct to existing settings. So I
never played Spelljammer, so I'm only vaguely aware of gray space. I understand that that's an extension, yeah?
Yeah, it's the solar system with other planets and everything, and it's every solar system has a crystal sphere around it, and then outside the crystal sphere there's the phlogiston, which the Spelljammers can travel through and stuff like that. It's a magical way to go from planet to planet. But I don't like to do it like really heavy, but every once in a while to introduce some spelljamming technology, or have a Spelljammer ship come down, or one of the races that are from Spelljammer come in, because they're going to look like complete something from another plane or whatever.
Yeah.
It really is useful in that sense.
I think we get really for players who are always telling you that who are always reading the monster manual and know everything. Throw them off with something new like that.
Yeah, and I think it would get really boring really quickly if that's all you ever did. But to have it come in once in a while, I think it works fine that way.
All right, so I'm ignorant here. In the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, is it meant to be in Greyhawk? Does that fit in? I mean, I know it's really a more of a, it's not I don't know if were they doing Star Frontiers, Gamma World crossover, Metamorphosis Alpha? Where did they get their
I think that was Metamorphosis Alpha.
Yeah, it was Metamorphosis Alpha and Gamma World, in terms of game system, are pretty much the same thing. It's just setting that it really differentiates. There's a few little things, but they're basic.
In Barrier Peaks, where was that supposed to have come from?
That comes from a spaceship in Otherwen that goes through some dimensional rift and ends up on Greyhawk. So that's an example of having high technology with lasers and robots and things like that.
So that's something you would find in Spelljammer?
No,
No.
completely different. Spelljammer is all magical stuff. They have these
Right.
spell jamming
Okay.
helms and space whales and hippopotami and humanoid hippopotami and uniforms and stuff. And the elves have this interstellar empire, and it's trippy.
It actually
But
sounds
no,
pretty fun. Maybe I
that
should.
has
Maybe I
nothing to
should be
do
checking it
with
out.
it had nothing to do with Barrier Peaks or Metamorphosis Alpha, although the systems are compatible enough with 1E that you can kind of, and even in the Dungeon Master's Guide, they give you guidance on how to port things from one to the other. And I know they did that in Gary's original Castle Greyhawk. They you'd read a cursed scroll and all of a sudden you're on the Starship Warden.
Right. And your book does touch on that a little bit with the Gray Space.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But it's not the focus, because the focus is a traditional campaign. And what I've done is I've also added a few little things here and there. There's actually 2 other books that I wrote for 5e Greyhawk. There's the Player's Guide, which is kind of a companion to the campaign guide, and that has all the crunchy bits about the backgrounds and feats and classes, subclasses, and stuff like that. In the new 2024 5e rule set. And the one I'm actually most proud of is the Cleric's Guide, because what I've done was, because in 5e, I don't know how familiar you guys are with 5e.
I've never DM'd it. I play in someone else's 5e game.
Clerics in 5e, you can take a subclass, right? And there's like the light subclass or the healer subclass, whatever. So what I did was I took every single one of the Greyhawk, well, almost all of the Greyhawk gods, 70 different ones, and I gave each one a specific cleric subclass with new spells, new powers, aligned to it. So you can, if you're a 5e cleric of Hyronius, you could choose one of the schools out of the book, or you could choose the Hyronius subclass, which gives you all this additional information. So there's new spells. There's, I talk about, and again, I add to the existing lore, but each one has like a little snippet of like a prayer or a myth or a fable or something that is connected to that god. And I describe, their worship and what the pilgrims do and stuff like that. I really try to add a lot of
that's cool
setting material in and amongst the crunchy bits.
And it makes sense. I mean, this is what players really look for now. I mean, that's one of the biggest differences between generations of players, is that people who are coming into the game now tend to look for setting first and rules second. So what you're giving them is what they want.
I'm hoping I'm mixing the two. Yeah. But even if you're not playing Greyhawk, you can still take any one of these god subclasses and you have a god of nature, use this and change the name, and boom, you can use it.
It's also, what else is I was just thinking it'd be really cool for that is that if you were running an adventure and you wanted to have some kind of a cult that they would have to deal with, you could pick a god from a different land, from a different area, and you don't have to tell the players what this cult is. They could discover it, and you'd have all the feel of it, and you could easily run that cult how they should be run, because here they're a cult, there they are a religion, here they are a cult. And of course, the cults are the bad guys because they're the other, right?
Yeah.
So,
even in the real world, the difference between a religion and a cult is numbers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly. That's
how
what I'm
long
saying.
has it been around, and
right.
maybe a couple other things, but basically, yeah. So this is awesome. So I'm assuming you will have all of these. Is Page your next convention you'll be at?
Page is the next convention I'm going to be at. I'm a special guest and a vendor, and I'm on staff, and I'm running a game on Thursday night.
Wow.
I'm actually running. I've made a miniatures war game, like a mass combat war game, which is geared towards first edition stuff. So I'm running the Battle of Emerity Meadows, which I first ran at ShireCon a couple of months ago. And that's the battle that kind of sets everything up for Temple of Elemental Evil.
Oh wow!
And I've got all these. I got all the armies of the Temple of Elemental Evil and the Righteous Host. They're all in 15 millimeter. I've got all the terrain and everything, and I call it Swords of Battle, and eventually I'll be publishing it once I've, once it's been play tested. That's what the cons are for, is to play test the rules.
We do that.
What my goal is, I don't want it to just be a miniatures game. It's a game you're going to be able to play with miniatures, but I want to have counters so that like you could have. There was probably before your time. There was something called System 7 Napoleonics.
Okay.
And it was a Napoleonics war game, like a miniatures war game, but it didn't have miniatures. It had little rectangular counters that had all the
like Avalon Hill style.
Right. And my goal is to be able to have all these scenarios that you can buy a scenario, it comes with the rules, and it comes with all the counters. It could be like a print and play thing. If you wanted to, you could use miniatures instead of the counters, but it'll come with the counters. You print them out, you put them on cardboard, and you play the game.
Oh,
so
that's
my ultimate goal.
You're just running that Thursday night at Page 2?
I'm doing so much. Okay, when I am a vendor at a con, I find I can do one of two things. I can vend or I can run games.
Yeah.
Because I know it doesn't look it, but I'm something of an introvert. And when I'm spending all day long when I'm selling, and I'm being, and I'm interacting with people all day long, it is incredibly draining.
Oh yeah, it runs your battery down. I get it.
And if I try to run, I've done this. I tried this at GaryCon once. I was vending all day long, and then I was running Castle Man Archbase that night. I sucked because I was just so drained. I was so out of it. So I don't do it. If I'm vending, I don't run games. And if I'm at a con as a guest, like I'm going to be at Total Con, then I'm running games all the time because I don't have to worry about selling. I'm doing a special thing at Page because it's Thursday night. I won't have been selling all day long.
Yeah.
It'll be, it's kind of the prep for the con. But I'm not doing it the other days when I'm actually.
No, I absolutely get that, because whenever we're vending, if I'm over at the table, I go into extrovert mode and I'm, doing all that things. But I think we're similar in that maybe I call myself like an extroverted introvert, right? Like you can be on for a certain amount of time and then your battery's just done,
and then you shut down. I don't want. And that's the same. Whenever I'm vending at a con, when the vendor hall closes, I want to go to the bar. I want to eat wings. I want to go to my room and watch whatever Marvel or Peter Jackson movie is on, because guaranteed one of them will be on.
Yes.
And I want to drink some beer and just crash. That's all I want to do.
So out of the three, so I'm the only like true extrovert here, huh?
Yeah, you're the only one with all the.
Knock yourself out, man.
I do. I can't help it. It's the way I was born.
That's why we push you out in front, Peter.
That's right. That's why I'm the one that wears the costumes, right?
That's right. I'm not wearing.
But you wear the tux like Merle?
No, but last year at Rising Phoenix, I wore like a 70s getup, and I
bought
wig.
It for him so that it would be as outlandish as possible.
Right, and I had a wig, and I was
because I was
for an event.
There's a guy who goes to Total Con and a couple other cons, and he has this role playing game like Channel 42. It's kind of
that's our buddy.
Yeah, and he's great. I love him.
Joey.
He's got the smoking jacket and everything. Yeah. I see him every once in a while. It's a neat little game, and I'm a huge
there it is.
Fan. Yeah, that's the one.
Channel game right there. Yep, that's
he's one of our buds.
I'm a huge Kolchak fan, so it's instantly when I saw that I was like, oh, I know what you're doing.
Have you played it with him yet?
I have not.
You definitely need to get into one of his games. It is a blast. It is
like
really
I say,
fun.
Most of the time I'm vending, and I'm just now starting to really hit cons to be a guest, so I can play and run things rather than just being a vendor, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Are you doing that at Total Con?
No. Yes, Total Con. I'm a guest, and I'll be running Mad Archmage. I'm running a one session of my new adventure, War from the Stars, which is a Lovecraftian AD&D adventure set in Greyhawk.
Nice. Where in Greyhawk?
In North Province, in a remote section of North Province that's kind of like a backwater, and all these.
Is it very Rhode Island like?
It's very Western Massachusetts, early 20th century. Yeah,
wherever it was that he lived.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
For some reason, I thought it was Rhode Island, but maybe it was.
He lived in Providence, but a lot of his stuff was like in the backwoods of Massachusetts, which
Yeah.
sounds weird to us to say today, but 100 years ago, that's actually what it was.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I can totally imagine that. Well, that's a good segue then. So for Total Con,
Right.
because we will be, we do a bunch of stuff at Total Con as well. We've got our little room there and everything. And so on Saturday night at Total Con, we will be presenting the Golden Fez Awards. And I encourage you to nominate yourself for this, Joe. I should make it clear, these awards are open not only to core rulebooks. Shane Ivey asked me about that. They are open to any supplement, adventure, anything that's role-playing game related. And do we have the award categories available there, Peter?
I'm not
I
showing
will
them.
pull them up really quickly. I just want to encourage people that if you are a creator or if you are a fan of somebody who you'd like to nominate, you do not have to be the creator to nominate for these.
Nope.
I will read off some of the award categories here. And these nominations are open until the end of December. So you've got until December 31st. Really easy. You just go fill out a form. There's not a lot to write like there is in the Ennies. You just say, what's the game? And send us a PDF. So the award categories are the Holy Hand Grenade Award for Best New Game Mechanic, the Pick Up and Play Award for the Easiest Game to Learn, the Velvet Smooth Award for Best Design and Production. That does not have to be to a core rulebook, can be to anything. We actually had, I got an inquiry from somebody from Italy today asking, do the books have to be in English?
Oh,
And I said, well, our judges probably don't speak Italian, so you'll have a little trouble with that. But the Velvet Smooth Award,
yeah,
give it a try. We don't have to be able to read Italian.
that
That
is
was
true.
That's the stuff that came out in 2024.
Oh, it's mostly for stuff that came out in 2024, nicely anticipated, because the next one is the Everlasting Fun Factory Award. So this is the one category open for a game published prior to 2024. So we will give an award to something whether it was published a year earlier or 50 years earlier. It's just
Empire of the Petal Throne.
Oh, that's a good game. I've played it.
Which one?
Empire of the Petal Throne.
Yeah, there's a new there's a couple new things that just came out for it. Somebody wrote what they're kind of calling the DM's guide for it. Have you seen this?
Neat.
No, but it's
No.
I've got a big Petal Throne collection behind me.
Yeah, that is one there. Somebody who's a big fan of M.A.R. Barker's work put together two books that are basically to make it a little easier to get into, because it is a very I don't know what's the word.
Impenetrable is the word you're looking for.
Thank you. It's impenetrable.
As are the novels. I've got both of the novels, and my God, they're rough work.
I have a copy of the box set just because, I'm not a collector, but I do like to have things. And that was not an easy one to get into, I have to say. Other categories we have are the Hack the Planet Award for the most unexpected idea. So this is originality in any form, rules, setting, design, anything that just surprises the heck out of us. The Bucket of Blood Award is for best combat rules. And then, of course, there will be the Golden Fez Game of the Year. And these awards are all meant to be focused on the kind of things that James Carpio loved in gaming. So as folks know, we lost our partner, James, earlier this year. And these awards are technically, the full name is the James Carpio Memorial Golden Fez Awards. And when we think about the end, of course, his wife, Mary, is going to be the head judge. The other judges, we'll announce them soon. We've got about 7 judges and really great group of people. And we'll be judging them based on what we think, but we'll be guided in what we think by looking at James's taste. And I do happen to know that he was a fan of all your stuff, so that'll help.
Right. Here's one. Look, this is a good one for the old school. Look at this. When's the last time you all saw this?
Oh God, yeah, Dragon Quest.
That's
Dragon
beautiful.
Quest. That's an SPI's
game. Desperate attempt to retain relevancy.
Oops.
Right.
Oh, I
don't know if it's any good. I haven't played it. I haven't played it in 40 years.
Okay. It's they rushed it into production because
Yeah.
They saw the writing on the wall, and they tried. Oh Lord, how they did try. But yeah, no. The war games that were associated with it, a Citadel of Blood, I think, is one of them. Were actually much better.
Oh, okay.
As you would expect from SPI. I mean,
yeah, right. Absolutely. Wait, who is GMT have all of their stuff now?
No, it's actually split up amongst a bunch of different places. Decision Games has a lot of their titles. Victory Games, I think. No,
okay.
They're with different publishers. Decision Games has most of them, I think.
Oh, okay, but their Spirited lives on.
Yeah, they're all. Oh, I still sell Decision Game stuff at cons. Oh, I love them. That's what I grew up on, and I sell it. I don't sell it because I make it. I sell it because I love it. I still play Hex and Counter War games. I love them.
That's excellent. Well, Joe, thank you so much for being on with us. If anybody wants to get your stuff, where can they find you and where can they buy your stuff?
My stuff is all on Drive-Thru and DM's Guild. If you go to greyhawkgrognard.com, you'll find links. You'll also find a whole bunch of free stuff because I like to give back. There's all kinds of free Greyhawk material, first edition material there. There's just all kind and 12 years of blog posts about Greyhawk and gaming in general. But you'll also find links to my YouTube channel and my online stores and so forth. So
you've got great videos. I encourage people to go out and find your videos and watch. They're excellent as well.
Thank you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hey, sorry it took us so long to get you on here too.
Trying to
sync up, sync up scheduling.
Yeah. It's like getting a game together.
Right.
Exactly. You have my sword and my shield. Wednesday's not good for me.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us again this week. And with that, we will sign off.